Have you ever scrolled past a job posting because the title just didn't sound impressive enough? HVAC tech, pipe fitter, millwright. Most people read those and keep scrolling. And I get completely why. The names don't sound glamorous. The images that come to mind are physical, unglamorous, uncomfortable. But here's what most people scrolling past those titles don't know. Some of those are the highest paying trade jobs in Canada, and they pay very well, specifically because most people scroll past them. Here's something worth understanding about where real opportunity sits. The trades that are struggling hardest to find workers aren't always struggling because the work is terrible. A lot of them are struggling because the image is off, because it sounds hard before people understand what it pays, because the work is physical and the learning curve is real, because a lot of people quit before they become valuable. That discomfort is exactly where your opening is. When a trade is technically demanding, the demand is constant and the talent pool is very thin. That's when the ceiling gets serious for those who are willing to stay. So let's walk through the 5 trades in Canada that genuinely are short on workers and where the top end pay would surprise a lot of people. This is probably the most underestimated trade in Canada. Most people picture basic furnace swaps, maybe fixing an air conditioner in someone's house. The actual scope of this work is much wider than that. Heating, cooling, refrigeration, airflow, motors, controls, gas, electricity, diagnostics, commercial systems, industrial process cooling, hospitals, grocery stores, restaurants, manufacturing facilities. When any of these systems go down, nobody says no rush. They want them up and running now. The urgency is exactly what keeps this trade so valuable. HVAC mechanic top end in Ontario is roughly $58 an hour, which is equivalent to $120,640 a year before overtime. That's not a beginner number. That's the ceiling. But it shows you how real the upside gets in Canada once you actually know what you are doing. Here's what makes this trade stand out beyond the number. This is not one repetitive task. You're troubleshooting, problem solving, dealing with systems that don't fail the same way twice. A helper who's new is one thing. A tech who can walk into a mechanical room and figure out why the system is down and actually solve the problem is something completely different. That gap is why this trade keeps paying. Good people are genuinely hard to find. So let's take a look at our second job, which is an industrial electrician. If you care about long-term upside, this one is one of the most strongest paths in Canada. The world is not becoming less electrical. It's becoming more electrical. Plants, automation, controls, motors, manufacturing lines, all of it needs skilled people to install, maintain, and troubleshoot. And the reason this trade pays the way it does is simple. Bad electrical work is expensive, dangerous, and impossible to hide for long. Companies need people who actually understand systems, not people who look busy. Industrial electricians' top end nationally is $54 an hour, which is $112,320 a year before overtime. Industrial electricians in Alberta can reach up to $68 an hour before overtime. And that is a serious number. And here's something I want to say about this trade specifically, because I think it matters to the right person. You cannot bluff your way through electrical. Either you can troubleshoot under pressure or you can't. Either people trust your work or they don't. And in industrial environments, once a company knows you're reliable, safe, and capable, your value changes very fast. And that's where the money starts separating. Not at the beginning. Later, when you become a person that other people call. A lot of people hear plumbing and instantly picture the most basic, uncomfortable version of it. That narrow picture makes a lot of people miss the much bigger opportunity. We're talking about residential, plumbing, commercial work, gas fitting, hydronics, boilers, process piping, mechanical rooms, sprinkler systems, and heavy system work that keeps entire buildings and facilities running. Water, gas, drainage, heating systems are not optional. They're core infrastructure. And when something goes wrong with them, it becomes a priority fast. Steam fitter, pipe fitter, top end, $56.80 an hour or $118,310 a year before overtime. And again, the money here is directly tied to skill and difficulty. A lot of people will never enter this lane because they've already judged it from the outside. That creates a huge gap. And the gaps create opportunity. That's also something about this trade that doesn't get said enough. That kind of real usefulness that comes from walking into a job, understanding what's actually wrong and knowing how to fix something, that matters. That also changes how you carry yourself. It changes how other trades see you. This one needs honesty because welding has one of the biggest gaps between average pay and top end pay, depending entirely on your skill level. A lot of people get pulled in by the image before they understand the reality. Yes, welding can be repetitive shop work, but it can also mean fabrication, structural work, industrial shutdowns, specialty environments, and jobs where precision matters far more than people realize looking in from the outside. Welder top end wage is about $47 an hour before overtime. In Alberta, you can reach up to $52.18 an hour before overtime. That ceiling is real, but so is this. Welding rewards skill more directly than almost any other trade. If you stay average, the money stays average. If you become excellent, things change. Companies can find some people who say they can weld. Finding someone who produces clean, reliable, accurate work under real conditions and real pressure, that's a different thing entirely. The harder the environment, the more that difference matters. Let's take a look at our last trade. This is one of the most underrated paths in the entire skilled trades world. Millwrights and industrial mechanics keep the equipment, machines, production lines, and systems running. They do installs, they repair breakdowns, do alignments, replace bearings, pumps, conveyors, and all the unpredictable problems that show up when the real production environments are under pressure. Industrial mechanic millwright top end is about $59.63 an hour or $124,000 a year before overtime. And that is a serious number for a trade most people have never heard of when they first start looking at their options. And that's exactly why it's such a strong opportunity. The more overlooked a trade is, the fewer people are lining up for the wrong reasons. Here's the reality of the work. Breakdowns, they cost money. Every minute a plant is down, every minute a system isn't running, somebody is losing money. The person who can diagnose the problem, stay calm, work through it, and get things moving again become important fast. That's not manufactured urgency. That's real industrial pressure. And people who can handle that pressure build careers that are very hard to replace. Now, I want to say something clearly because this matters if you're watching this to actually change your life, not just to see high numbers. Just because these trades can hit those ceilings does not mean you walk in expecting them on day one. That mindset will ruin your attitude fast. The top end money goes to people who've built real experience, who have earned trust, who stayed in the trade, who learned to troubleshoot and handle pressure, who stopped needing to be carried by everyone around them. That phase at the beginning where you don't know enough, where you make mistakes and get corrected, where you're doing less glamorous work, that part is real. And a lot of people quit there, not because the opportunity isn't real, but because they thought it would feel easier than what it actually does. But if you push through that phase, something changes. You stop feeling like you're in the way. Problems start making sense. People will begin to trust you more. You become useful. And in the trades, being useful changes everything. So here's the question I'd actually push you to ask. Not which trade pays the most. Which trade can I actually stay in long enough to become valuable? Because the highest paying trade on paper means nothing if you hate the day-to-day reality and quit before the upside ever shows up. Some people fit service work. Some people fit industrial. Some like troubleshooting and building. Some want a variety and some want less customer interaction. Be honest with yourself because the fit matters more than the hype. So let's take another quick look at the top end money and where it sits in Canada. So let's start with HVAC refrigeration. $58 an hour or $120,640 a year before overtime. Industrial electrician in Alberta, $68 an hour, $141,440 a year before overtime. Steam fitter, pipe fitter, Ontario, $56.88 an hour before overtime. Welders in Alberta can see $52.18 an hour before overtime. And industrial mechanic and millwrights in Alberta can see $59.63 an hour before overtime. That's not entry level. That's not your average ceiling, but the ceilings are real. And that's the whole point. Canada still needs people who can actually do real work. Buildings still need heat. Plants still break down. Power still has to run. Pipes still leak. Equipment still fails. And somebody still has to be that person who shows up and knows what to do. That part isn't going away anytime soon. And that part can't be replaced. So here's my question to you. If you had to start over today and choose between HVAC and refrigeration, industrial electrician, plumbing and pipe trades, welding, or millwright work, which one would you choose and why? Drop it down in the comments. I read every single one of them and I do reply to every single comment.